Hello, Games Done Quick 2018. My name is LattMackey, which is very similar to my real name, which is just Matt Lackey. This is Bonk's Revenge, and this is my PB, which was world record for about 6 hours or so before Great John beat it. There's not many runners for us, and actually in this category, which is the expert category, basically Great John and I are the only two running this category. There's some others who are trying to submit some runs. They're developing their runs, so we're trying to get more people involved in the community. This is actually, it's kind of an interesting run because it's kind of marathon safe already built in. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it right now. And you'll notice it's a kind of a straight platformer. This is Bonk. He is a caveman who walks around and then walks around and walks around. Oh, he swims occasionally, but he's actually kind of a fun dude. He has a spin attack, which obviously moves you through a level, but it also helps you defeat some enemies. And he just has a normal headbutt. He's got a giant cranium that he uses as his special weapon. There's not much to it more than that. There will be some times where Bonk is powered up, and this happens quite often in the run. And when you are powered up after eating a piece of meat, it allows you to move much quicker. So we try to get this as often as we can. However, you'll notice right now as I get it, that it wastes some time with an animation. So there are other times where we're going to damage boost, or we might hit an enemy to boost through a section instead of getting a piece of meat because of the time losses and sometimes there's just not meat available. So the thing that I just got the meat out of, it's called a floret sprung, and they're littered throughout the game. Some of them have enemies in them. Some of them are just for giving you power-ups. Some of them are for jumping. So you saw the springs actually in the beginning of the run. So as I mentioned, this is actually kind of a marathon-safe route that we're taking right now, and you'll see that in just a moment why that is. We actually get extra lives during this route because there are going to be some intentional damage spots, and we lose lives because we're only playing with 3 hearts, and the enemies in this game can be quite deadly sometimes. So here's where I get my first extra life, and it's helpful because I'm going to take some damage and probably die later in the run. I'm almost sure I will. Right now, as we're developing better strats, we actually don't get those extra lives, but for the marathon we would because of the safety issue. The nice thing about this game is that there's not a huge risk there's not a run killer in the game. When you continue from the beginning of a round, and you have a couple of continues to start the game with. You won't see any continues in this run, but if total disaster happened, which is highly unlikely, you could continue from a round. But the way that we kind of avoid some of those scary moments is to get extra lives, and so you'll see it happening right now. I'm about to get another extra life to play the first round safely. There's other things. You can actually bounce off walls. We haven't found any clips or glitches in the game yet, so not sure. I think if some of those do get discovered, that's an easy way, obviously, where we'll start, losing seconds and start speeding up the run. So, an interesting thing about this game is that there's not a whole lot of RNG built into the game. One of the few spots is here at bosses. Those fireballs, and also where his head exits the shell, is luck-based. There's nothing we know of that is causing him to come out on the left or come out on the right, or where those fireballs fall from the sky. But everything else, like all of the route getting up into there, was almost exactly the same every single time you do it. So something kind of fun about the game is that it's skill-based. There's not a whole lot of luck involved, which unfortunately, I wish my time was better, but it means I'm a better player. But it's kind of cool because you cause your time to get better, or not the game, So there's these are all predetermined. They happen every single time you run the game. My way of getting through it changes because I'm not consistent 100% of the time with everything that I do. Every round, there are these mini bosses and mini stages. Their pattern only changes depending on where your head hits their hitbox. So it's not an RNG thing of where they hit after you hit them. It's actually where you hit them. So obviously, we're trying to hit them in the same place every time so we can force them to do what we want them to do. But we are human, and that's a challenge. So this is one of my favorite stages, and it's one of the jungle stages. You actually get to jump up and up and up. That's kind of one of the nice things is there's horizontal and vertical platforming in this game, and it makes it, it keeps the game very fresh and very interesting. One thing about the TurboGrafx 16 is that it actually had turbo buttons on the controller. So when you play this on Virtual Console, the Virtual Console simulates that by letting you just press the button, but there was actually switches on the console. It's on the controller. So a lot of the games had games that, the developer thought, hey, they're going to have access to turbo, so I can kind of create ways of using that turbo within the game. And in this game, the spin is obviously the obvious one. You can button mash and do the same thing, but being that there's a turbo button, you just hold it down and you can do a spin, which is very cool. So like that shot right there where I just hit him on the top of the head, that's not a turbo hit. But when I spin, which I won't do actually here until for a while, that's holding down the turbo button. So this is the second boss of the game. There's 7 rounds. And there is a couple different ways you can approach this boss. I'd say this is a safer strat just because I didn't want to get hit and die. There is a more riskier strat where you could button mash and crush but it's very, you're trying to hit the same spot over and over again. It's not exactly easy to do as a human. So that was one of my best round 2s, even though it wasn't a gold. That definitely put me in a good spot to continue on with this run. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of places there's really no run kills in any of these rounds so far, and you won't see any places where the run just completely dies, because it's the way that the game is built. There's lives, there's continues, there's all this kind of stuff. Once again, I'm going to be looking for meat power-ups to move through the stage faster. Round 3 is really where the skill starts to happen, and if I were running for world record, round 3 is usually the place where I'm going to have to start resetting. That in round 1 only because I don't want to be put behind in round 1. So there's another mini boss. This one's one of the easiest one in the game. It's way easier than even the first round mini boss. And so there are some precise button inputs here as I'm going through these enemies. But because it's an ice level, you're moving through it pretty quickly and you're sliding, so there's some physics involved. And once again, I'm going to try to get meat again and stay powered up and try to get through the level as fast as I can. A little bit of bonking there. Bonking, there's the type of attack you do is called a bonk. But then also if you bump into something and it slows you down, that's also called a bonk. So differentiating between that is a little bit weird. Okay, there are these little ghosts in this level that they are not RNG based. They appear always at the same time, and we're developing a better strat to avoid them, but also use them as damage boosting. Like right there, that was a purposeful damage boost, and that happens throughout the run. I'm gonna hit another ghost, and I cringe every time I see it because I know it's coming, and yet I still hit it, and it slows me down. That was the one before that one. So this is where the run gets a little bit technical, and what I'm going to try to do now is get to the boss as fast as I can, because I want to keep my power up as long as I can in the boss, because she's the slowest boss in the game, but if you have a power up, you can skip 2 cycles, which I did in my PB here. So I've hit this guy, and now I'm really just racing as fast as I can to get to the boss. And it's a very specific route, avoiding getting hit, but also landing on the correct platform. So as you can see, my power-up is about to wear off, but it does... Oh, okay. It wears off right as I got into the elevator lift. So now all I have to do is avoid damage, and I'll be able to get 2 hits in as a powered-up bonk. Once again, it's one of the ways... Here's the thing. So, like, if I didn't have the power-up for both of the hits, I would still normally cycle through this boss. It would just take anywhere from 8 to 21 seconds extra. She's she's actually random, where how long she spins back and forth for. So it's kind of can be once again a crapshoot. But I actually got a really good cycle. She popped there, and then I got lucky. So that's really the places you could get lucky in this game are at the bosses. That's because there's RNG there. So it was nice to get a gold on that stage. Felt good. So as you'll notice as you go through the game, there are these little smiley faces that you can get, but I get absolutely none of them. If you get enough of them, you get bonuses at the end of a stage. But once again, they slow you down and they cause you to lose time. So the interesting thing is if you get 50 of the smileys in a level, you get to warp. But getting all those smileys is slower than just going as fast as you can through the stage. So we were talking about actually, maybe doing like a meme category with having warps and things like that, or maybe 100% where you get all the smileys. But the run at that point could take close to an hour. So I had a really bad boss fight here. I considered resetting here, but I had saved so much time on the round 3 that I'm like, oh, I got to keep continuing at this point. I got to keep going. So there's a couple of skips coming up right now. These are another technical. This is definitely where the run could slow down big time. This first skip I'm about to get is pretty consistent because it's flexible. You don't have to be very exact with that first one. But if you miss that skip, that adds about 15 seconds to the run. So that's the first skip in this round. And it's damage boosting through. And then the second skip is coming up right after here. And if you miss this one, it's about another 10 to 18 seconds, depending on your how you quickly you can get through blocks. I actually got lucky and got damage boosted in there. That's not our purpose. You'll also notice something, that there is points in this game. So I'm actually trying to accumulate 60,000 points by the end of the run. Every 20,000 points, you get an extra life. And once I mentioned that we're gonna be taking intentional damage at specific spots. So I will be losing those lives. Occasionally it'll be unintentionally. I'll point those out when they happen. But here's another meat, so I try to get through here as fast as I can. And sometimes it would make sense to jump and be powered up at the same time, but not in this stage, because when you jump and you hit the walls, you just slow down and move slower. So I am going to be taking intentional damage here. And this is another place where you could die, but you only lose a few seconds in death animation because you have 5 lives accumulated by this time. So taking intentional damage, got through here, but there's also that fruit gives you extra life, so you do pick up some extra life by the end. This is Captain Crunch. I don't know if that's his real name. Hope that's not trademarked, but it probably is. So I can't. There are names for all these bosses and everything, but he's RNG based. There's 6 unpowered, or 6 or 7 unpowered hits. You have to get him to hit him up to this part, and then this is a little bit RNG. Where his missiles actually hit. And I forgot that I died here. Oh yeah, I would have had a PB on our 4 round, but I died. So he's RNG in the missiles that he fires. As you'll notice, the pattern on the missiles can be different, and depending on his patterns, sometimes it interferes with you bonking on him. So it can slow you down. It's thankfully, once again, it's not a run killer, but he definitely can put up a fight. The nice thing is that there are going to be deaths in this run, and I thought kind of a fun way to incentivize the philanthropy aspect of this is to donate per death. I myself would love to personally put up money per death because there's going to be deaths in this game. So kind of a nice way to add some donations, incentives to the game. There's also mini games in this game, and you get them while you're running, but you can also play them without having to run. So nobody's ever heard. I'm not sure how many people have actually heard of this game. So it might be fun to do a donation incentive where you play mini games with other runners, or we can play some of the mini games if we reach a certain donation incentive. Once again, I'm not sure how much that's actually going to matter because if people haven't heard of the game, it might not mean that much to them. But it's kind of fun to play through it. This is the lava stage, and this is where I will take some more death, and actually an intentional death coming up in another horizontal horizontal platforming. It's the same type of waterfall as in the beginning, but now there's a ton of enemies and all this kind of stuff happening. I am intentionally damage boosting. Some enemies I will kill intentionally, but some I will intentionally boost off of. And because of that, you have to take an intentional death, at least my route currently. Great John's, who's the world record holder right now, takes a slightly different route, and his has an intentional damage as well. So we're trying to develop a better route, but at a certain point there gets to be so many enemies on the screen that Not quite sure what else we're developing. What else to do? Shouldn't say I'm not quite sure because we're just developing it. We're trying new things almost every run. So anyway, this is round 5, and that's another life gone. So now I've lost 2 lives in the run, and still really safe because I have 3 lives. Plus, I'm going to get an extra life at 60,000 points. The game, once again, this is the same time NES was out, and you can see the graphics and art is really colorful, really nice to look at. Takes up the whole screen, and the music for the bosses is it's some of my favorite music in all video games. This is a big nostalgic type game for me, as it's one of the first games. I was lucky enough to have one of these in our house. My brother was like a big fan of TurboGrafx. Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I was too young. But this is like the first game I played. This we had this. It was I don't know. So like playing, even running it, I still get the feeling like I'm that little kid, getting to play a game for the first time, because trying to develop new strats for a speed run is kind of like playing the game for the first time. So it's really a fun way to play through it. So there's going to be some enemy boosting as we go through this one. You're going to notice that these dino purple birds are like the worst in the world because they can totally crush you. If they capture you in your mouth, you saw earlier in the run that they just destroy you. So I was a little bit sloppy on this. I've gotten way better at this part here. There's actually a route where you can hit off multiple enemies. You really want to get to that helicopter powered up, because then he's only 1 hit. If you're not powered up, he can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hits. And lucky enough to get another meat boost here. And you also get to jump higher. You don't just move faster when you're powered up with meat. So I use that a little bit to my advantage here. Although I got hit there. There is going to be some damage boosting here done as well. And this isn't just enemy boosting, this is damage boosting. Not in that one right there, but... So the idea here is just to get to the top of this stage as fast as you can. There's actually a newer strat that we're using that's not what's in this PB, interestingly enough. The current best or world record time right now is just under 27 minutes. It's 26:56. And so my current PB is almost 40 seconds off of world record. And this has all happened within a couple of months. The development on the game for pacing has just gotten great. John and I have been going back and forth at it. It's been really nice. We help each other out with each other's strats, and that's kind of it's the speedrunning community aspect. It's so awesome that we're all here to help each other out and stuff like that. So this is Rocket Man, which is not his real name. Maybe if you got a better name, maybe we could come up with something to make it a little more creative. There is a cheese strat that the task does here, and John and I are getting closer and closer to achieving it. What you do, What you do is you bump into, you take a hit after you've hit him. So you'll hit him, and you take a hit, and right there, and instead of falling down like I did, you actually bonk quick enough to keep him in the corner, and you can keep repeatedly hitting him. That could take off like 30 seconds off the time, which would be a huge time save, but it's taking some time to get used to. And playing this game on Virtual Console or even on TurboGrafx, we don't have a really good way to use save states. So practicing this, kind of the only way you can do it right now is to get there in the run and give it your best try. So I don't have unfortunately as many attempts as I'd like just at the boss itself. And as you can see, this is attempt 659 on my splits. I'm close to 800 now, and I've shaved my sum of best is under 27. And I think John's is just over 26. We're both getting really close. Sub 26 is going to be definitely something we do, I think, within the next month or so, if we keep accelerating and making the progress that we've done right here. So this is the last round of the game, and you'll end up playing all of the bosses over again. But you have to go through a new level to get there. And these levels are the toughest levels, as they should be as you're getting closer to the end of the game. And they require the most skill, and you'll see some new things you haven't seen before. Here is Bonk as a crab. Who knew Bonk could be a crab? What can you do as a crab? Well, you walk really slowly. You walk even slower than when you were walking, but you can fit in places that you couldn't fit before. And so you'll actually, the strats we'll use is keeping crab to move through some areas you couldn't get through before. That was a terrible death. because it knocks you back on the conveyors, which slows you down a little bit. But because we have an extra life coming up, we're going to get one at 60,000, and also the 2 lives we have in already, it's pretty safe to move through and still be aggressive with the run. This is just some basic destroying. There is a little bit of an RNG out of the blocks. Sometimes you can get a meat, and you can get powered up out of the blocks. I don't know how often it happens. I'm not quite sure how random or how often it does happen, but it does. And John, in his current world record run, did get one in here, and he literally saved, I think, 5 or 6 seconds just on this elevator level. I should probably start splitting in between the elevator levels, so I kind of know where I'm losing time and everything like that. But yeah, it's just a little bit easier to split. I don't use a pedal or anything like that, so it's just a little bit easier to split after every round. So this is the first time you'll see a boss over again, and the strat is exactly the same as the first time. This time, though, we're powered up, so we get to move through this guy very quickly. I am going to take an intentional hit there, and then I get on top, but depending on RNG on the missiles, see, I would have killed him quicker had that missile been in a different spot, which sometimes it does happen based on RNG. And now we'll continue on to the next elevator level. Bonk does his thing, jumps a little bit. And there are some good spots for taking donation requests. As you can notice, there's cutscenes in between the rounds. That's a great time to read donations. Through the levels, there's a decent amount to actually talk about. I get an extra hard case here. There's actually, I think, 7 hard cases you can get total throughout the game. But for this run, we only get 1, and we may stop getting that pretty soon, depending on how much time we need to shave, because that animation slows things down. But it's super helpful and safe, because we're about to intentionally damage boost off of not this elevator, but the next elevator boss. When I'm doing these spins, I want to land on my feet, not like that, not on my head, because it slows you down. It's not always easy. Because of the turbo, I'm actually using where I'm trying to land as my visual cue. You'll notice this is the round 2 boss, and I just got a first double hit, so that's really good. But I can definitely get hit right in there if I'm not accurate with my inputs. And this is going to be a pretty quick, yeah, that was a pretty good fight. Move through it quickly. And once again, this is another time you could read donations. It's in between a level. All I'm doing is walking up to the next elevator. In between all the rounds, good places to read donations. And here is the 3rd elevator, and this is a water level. Full water. One of the few times you'll actually see me swimming. There's swimming actually in round 4, but those skips that I got make it so you don't have to swim. But now, we actually use crab, bonk crab, to advantage. When you're crab, you actually swim very quickly. And I can fit through spaces that I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to destroy those with my head if I was bonk. So it's kind of nice that I can just kind of cruise through the level. I will take a hit here. It's tough to avoid that one, or I'd rather get hit and not see. That's what happens. If you get a piranha hit, it stays on you, it does damage, and it never goes away. So you want to avoid the piranhas. And I want to squeeze in here I want to get crab every single time, because it makes me move quicker. So once again, got good cycle. Crab again. I'm going to avoid another enemy, avoid that star, and now I can, if I have to bonk through this part here with the bricks, it's very slow. But then I also want to be bonked for the boss, so I take an intentional hit there. And this is unfortunately one of the slowest, most boringest fights in the entire game. You have to wait for her to unspin, and if she doesn't give you that foot, you have to hit her and take damage for it. So this is one of those spots where it's very tough to avoid not dying here, because it's RNG based. So like I have to hit her there. I don't want to miss a cycle, because missing a cycle could be anywhere. It could be like 8 seconds, and that just slows it down majorly. So I'm aggressive with her, and I will intentionally die here, but I still get the hit, so that's pretty good. This could be a time for donations, because it's the same fight. It's just it can be a little slow. But bonks, you could look at one thing I like to do with bonk when I'm waiting around for these cycles to end is he's got a little groove going on. He's shaking his hips, he's moving his feet, he's dancing his jig. So it's a way to keep yourself a little occupied as you're going through through these runs. And we're gonna. I think this is the last one. Yeah, it's the last hit. So that was a pretty good fight. You have to get 5 hits on her when you're not powered up, and as far as we know right now, there's no way to get double hits when you're not powered up. So we're heading on into the last elevator before the final boss elevator, and this will be the first boss of the game, round 1 boss. And it's once again just kind of straight platforming, a little bit of lava. If you hit that lava, you actually take damage, but you do a damage boost off of it. So I'm trying to move through. As you can see, I'm trying to get a continuous hits going right now. It makes you move a little quicker. Plus, I really, at this point, I don't want to take too much damage because I want to save those hits for the bosses. And you'll see why when I get there. A little bit more life, so keeping it safe. There's actually one other marathon save strat if things really go bad, and it's kind of a backup, and that was in the first elevator. There's 2 extra lives in the first elevator, and they're very easy to get. They don't take any skill to get. You just have to jump up to them and get them. So let's say I was short a life or 2 by the time I reached the first elevator. I would go for those so I don't have to continue. Because continuing in this stage is really just, it really slows you down. So that was a really good turtle fight. You try to 1-cycle it. If you don't, yeah, it's about 7 more seconds if you have to wait a second cycle. So here are the last 2 bosses of this run. You have to face Rocket Man again. And once again, I'm going to try to get in some second hits on him. So I will be taking intentional damage. So if I get him on the first time. Nope, missed it on the first one. If right now the current... Yeah, so I'm going to take... And I missed him again. So... So this is obviously a part where I really need to practice Rocket Man quite a bit. That's the second hit you want to take. And if you can keep him in the corner there, you can cheese him. That's kind of the strat we would like to develop. And I think this is the last hit on him, so we're coming close. So this is the last boss. And I love getting to this point of the game. One, because we're getting close to the end, but the music for King Drool is the best. It's one of my favorite songs in all of video games, and so often I get here when I have less than 1 heart and I just hear the beeping of that I need to I need more life, so it kind of kills the music, but I'm getting better at that. So this is I'm gonna get hit here and die, which isn't dead, which isn't terrible, but if you can get 3 to 8 hits per cycle, you can 2-cycle King Drool. I think there's going to be a 3-cycle if I remember correctly. But I think I do get a good hit here. You're trying to hit his nose and you're trying to hit the crown. You get a little bit more damage for getting the crown. He takes about 8 hits total. Really random. He sometimes we've destroyed him in 7, and then sometimes it's taken 9. And we don't know if there's an RNG factor to it, or if there's just a specific hitbox that we're missing as we get to him. So, still trying to develop some of these strats, and I think by the time the actual marathon roll around, we'd be in a better spot. And I'm about to end it here, and there we go. Okay, that's a PB. Pretty excited. As you can tell, I'm doing the cheering up and down thing, and I'm pretty excited. This was this was a little bit earlier in my stream, so I was pretty excited about it. Once again, nice animation. There's a really fun outro that goes on. The music gets really fun, and for no apparent reason, Bonk is going to save this. I think it's a princess. Anyway, there's going to be a little kissing scene going on. So, but Bonk looks like he'll be excited to save. I don't even know what this is. I'm glad the moon is something back to normal. Who knows? Anyway, this is Bonk's Revenge, and it's a game that we've just started speedrunning in the last few months. It's really fun. I'm hoping more people get involved and try and keep running it, because we're having a really good time developing strats for it. There we go. See, Bonk gets excited by the kiss. Who would have thought? You know, Bonk did his job. He saves the princess, similar to other games for other systems. Anywho, Once again, my name is LattMackey. This is Bonk's Revenge. Thank you for the consideration. I just on a personal note, I love what you guys do with Games Done Quick. I actually work for a nonprofit charity, and the fact that you guys are able to raise millions of dollars for such good causes. Thank you for doing that. It's just amazing what this community, how they come together and do these things. So thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to Summer Games Done Quick this year.